Well, hello everybody, thanks for joining me again. I've come up onto Dartmoor and I think you can see why. Some lovely autumn colours. It's a misty, rainy day and I'm hoping for some nice woodland photography. Now, I did take a week off work to do some decorating, would you believe, but always knew if there was an opportunity I would get out with the camera. But it has been raining and very windy for the first half of the week. But the colours are looking really nice. I brought 3 lenses with me so that I've got lots of choices. I've got the 16-55 for the woodland shots. I've even brought a macro lens with me if I see some nice fungi. And I've got the 70-350 if I happen to see some wildlife. But, or maybe those closer in shots, maybe it might even help me with the macro. So anyway, don't know what I'm going to find, so let's go have a look, shall we? So as always, when you get a really nice day like today, what do you shoot? There's so much to look at. I've decided to stop first at this waterfall before I go into the quieter woodland. I'm going to try and do a panorama of this. There's some really nice roots down in the bottom here, leading onto the rocks, and then the falls itself, with this lovely orange yellow backdrop. And yeah, I thought a panorama right across the river might be nice. But to get the roots in, which is about 2-3 meters from the camera, I'm going to have to put the camera in portrait mode. I've also got a variable ND filter on and polarizer, and I'll mess around with those to cut out some of the glare off the water, and I'm hoping to end up for maybe a second exposure just to show the movement in the water. The shot's any good? Let's have a look at it now. Well, it's always good to get started and get at least one photograph in the bag. Now technically I think this photograph works really quite well. It sticks together nicely. There's about 5 images in this, but compositionally there's elements I like. Obviously I've mentioned the roots down in the bottom left, but that rock in the middle just doesn't work for me. But good to get started. Wow, just look at that. Now, not much of an image, granted, but look at the colour. This has just got to be a portrait shot, hasn't it? Just getting that lovely tree in there and the path leading away. Well, now without me in the shot, I'm sure that I can make a nice portrait shot just there. Cut the bit of sky out. Let's see what settings I'm going to need for this. I think this is one of these photographs where I'm struggling to do it justice. It looks so good. Trying to get it right in the back of the camera is not so easy. So I'm using a combination of that polarizer to try and replicate the right colours. As you move the polarizer, as you probably know, you'll saturate the colours. Also, try and make a real good mental note of what this looks like. Just trying to remember those colours. Anyway, for those that are interested, settings wise, I'm at f11, half a second exposure, ISO 100. I've got a variable ND filter on, but I've got that at minimum, and obviously I'm using the polarizer just to polarize and cut down on some of the glare. So just like the last photograph, there's elements of this image I really do like. I'm surprised that the two trees either side that are bright, I do like the way they sort of come across the shot. I like the leading line of the path and I like the tree, but the colours for me just are a bit heavy. I'm looking for something a little bit more pastel like. Well, I've stopped again. There's a group of trees on the other bank of the river which I really like. Let me show you in the back of the camera. So that group of trees on the far bank is surrounded by, again, all that colour, and there's some small saplings on the shoreline, especially that one on the right hand side, and they stand out nicely as a group of trees. And because there's some distance between me and the trees, it's almost got that misty look about it. And I do like the composition more with this one. The last two shots I just hadn't got quite right. This one, the trees are nicely separated. There's space either side of the frame, and it looks nicely balanced. I think colour wise I still have something to learn. Could have taken the reds down a little bit. You can see that bracken is a bit bright in the shot. Anyway, while I was here, as the water was rushing by, I decided to try some long exposure shots of that. So I had my variable ND and polarizer on. So I used that so that I could push the shutter speed up to 1 second and keep the ISO quite low and give me f11, so I was going to get a deep depth of field. And these are the images I came up with. As you can see, the river Dart was in full flow, and even though it's flowing away from me, the wave patterns look really nice and almost look like they're rushing towards you out of the shot. And of course I'm trying to frame that with the autumn leaves above. But even those wave patterns I thought were worth an image just on their own. Now, that was a good thought at the time, but I'm not sure whether this photograph really works. Maybe it's just a composition. Those two rocks in the top are a little distracting, and maybe could have made the water a little darker. Anyway, comment below. Tell me what you think. Well, I don't know why I like this next image. This fallen tree and all these branches laying on the ground. Lots of fungi on, rotting branches, which I might try and photograph later, but just this scene just speaks photograph to me for some reason. I had the camera set up for the last photograph I took, which was the rushing water, and it's quite dark, and I pushed the ISO up to 200 with a 1 second exposure. Now I came here and just plonked the camera down, and instantly the colours just looked right. Now 1 second exposure, ISO 200, I thought, well, I'll change that, I'll go to ISO 100, a bit less noise, and I'll increase the shutter speed. But all of a sudden the colours and the textures just didn't look right, so I don't know what's going to happen with the actual final photograph, but let me just show you in the back of the camera. So these settings, there's just something about this image I like. Any of you experts out there would like to comment and tell me what's going on here, please feel free to comment. Right, I've taken this landscape shot, but I was thinking of a portrait, so let's try that because there's an interesting colour above this. And the portrait orientation looks far better with the autumn colours above. Now I have done a little bit of editing with this. I've put a radial mask on this just to brighten up the tree on the ground in the foreground, and this works really well. As I say, not quite sure why I liked the shot initially, but it does work. So as I'm wandering along, I am taking a few images of the colours, but not sure whether I've found that perfect image yet. But there's another one right behind me here. Some fantastic trees, lots of colour, and I'm actually zoomed in a bit again, trying to sort of get that almost misty look between me and the tree. I think I'm trying to make it look more pastel. So I think you can see I haven't over polarized this one, and I'm at ISO 100, trying to cut the noise out. F8 will be fine, I think. There's not much in the foreground, it's all about that background there. So everything should be in focus. 1/5 of a second. Hardly a breath of wind. So I think in this image I have actually captured those colours a little better. And I think the reason why is I just didn't use the polarizer so much. So that's left a little bit of the sheen and glare on the leaves where they're wet, and has kept all that atmosphere between me and the trees in the distance. Not sure about the composition, I could have had a bit more space either side of the trees. So I've decided I've walked far enough and I'm starting to head back to the car. But as I've already been taking photos of all the lovely colours, I decided, okay, let's look for those small things. And as soon as you start looking, you start seeing stuff. So this is what I'm looking at. Got some mushrooms or toadstools just growing out the side of this mossy tree. Now, not sure if I've got this in focus. I'm using the 16-55 at the minute just to film the thing. Let's get the macro lens on and see whether I can make a better image of this. So there is a little bit more light now, as you can see, so maybe it is better to move to the macro stuff because the trees are quite brightly lit now. So anyway, lens I've got is a 7 Artisans 60mm f2.8. Now I bought this actually to scan my negatives that I was developing myself and turn them into digital photos so I can edit them. And this was recommended, but now I've got such a good macro lens, let's see what it can do. So let's just show you in the back of the camera. I'll just brighten it up a little bit. There we go. So I'm not able to get a whole group of mushrooms in focus all at once. I'm just concentrating on one at a time and leave the other ones in the background or foreground just for interest. But it looks a little dull. Now I'll show you what I'm doing to compensate for that. So I've bought a light panel with me. Now I could use the torch on my mobile phone or my head torch that's in the camera bag, but I thought I'd bring this. I can turn the brightness up and down, and also I can change the Kelvin so I can make it colder or warmer. What I'm going to try and do with these is line up the shot and then try and light up from underneath and These mushrooms particularly got a lovely white fringe underneath, so I'm going to try and highlight that. Well, hopefully the focus is still in the same place. Now, if I bring this warm light in from underneath, you can see what it does if I move it around. From the top, not quite the same, but certainly if I get it right from underneath, it lights up that white fringe quite nicely. Don't think I'm going to go through that. So as I'm walking along, I don't think there's that many fungi. I can see a lot that have gone over, and maybe it's the windy, wet weather we just had the last few days, or maybe, don't know. But there are some, so I'll keep looking. But I've put the 16 to 55mm lens back on now because you'll see a lot more trees to look at. Well, most of the time I try not to do these walk and talk shots, but just got to show you this bit of the woodland I'm walking through. There's pools of water with lots of leaves in, and what a beautiful place. This is one of those woodlands where you could come back time and time again and find different images every time. Now, I was trying to capture some of these pools, as you could see. Saw this log which made a leading line towards the trees in the background, and should have taken a bit more time, and I think with a little editing I could brighten up the center and it would look better. And also there's just all sorts of things to take. I saw these leaves on this branch which just was crying out for this letterbox shot. Now again, I've used the polarizer on this. I've also made the leaves a lot brighter. Now maybe I should have made this a more pastel shot. Now this image I've actually taken before about 2 years ago, and about the same time of year, and it looks very similar, but I still like the image. There's a couple of things really difficult about this shot. You see the larger tree on the left, there's a little one just poking its way out on the right hand side, but if I move to the left, then the other ones in the background then clash. And just coming back a bit, this is the same group of trees, and all I'm doing is including this small stream. Now what that does do is frame where the path goes. So you've got that lighter tree on the right hand side, the dark river at the bottom, and the dark bushes on the left. Lead your eye into the distance. I've timed my visit, I think, just perfectly. Some really nice colours. Now whether that's down to the weather we've had this year, we've had quite a lot of drought. Of course now in Dartmoor it's very wet. But it's like the oak trees producing lots of acorns this time of year. There's been a lot more due to the drought. Yeah, just look at the colours through there. Okay, let's keep on the hunt for these fungi. Well, I finally found some more fungus that I quite like the look of, clinging to the side of the log here. Really not being able to find too much. Time for this macro lens again. Well, there's an image. I don't know if that's the one I want, but I'm going to experiment with the light again. That looks better on top, around the front here, or maybe underneath. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't need any light. I really quite like that. Maybe getting down a bit further and looking up at them. Which is exactly what I did after this shot. Not sure that this works looking down on the top. I think what I do like about it is all those layers in the top of this fungus and the little white fringe on the bottom, but not sure if that's the best image I could make of them. Anyway, moving the camera down, there was this group here which I really liked, and the larger one on the right with the others blurring out into the background really did work. Some nice contrast between the white of the flesh of the fungus and the dark wood behind. But what I also liked, and I didn't notice until I put the macro lens on, were these little droplets of water along the fringe of this fungus. Really nice. Now I looked down at my tripod feet. I was very careful about where I was standing, where the tripod was, because there were so many fungus on the floor. Now this little pair were literally the size of a pin. Now I haven't been able to get these in pin sharp focus. I was actually hand holding the macro lens, but I just do like the composition. Well, okay, I think I found one more little mushroom all on its own on top of this log. This is where I set the camera up. Well, I want to try and show you how small this little mushroom really is. It's so small I'm having to manual focus. There he is, just poking up above the tree. And I was in such a hurry to take the photograph, I forgot to put the macro lens back on. So I actually took this with the 16 to 55mm, which goes to f2.8. Now all the way out at 55mm, this worked really well. Again, I used the light panel just to the left and below the little mushroom, and I think this makes a really nice shot with the dark background. Well, I think I'm going to call it a day. I've actually come back to this old fallen tree that I photographed earlier on in the video, and that's where I found most of the fungi. Anyway, it's been nice to try that macro lens out for the first time, and even if the shots weren't very good, it was good to try and lovely to be out in this autumn woodland. Anyway, If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all again soon. But for now, cheerio.